We need to kill another minute. Let's invite those who are here in the audience to introduce themselves. Just your name, please. Mr. Johnson, right here on the front. Start with- Okay, thank you.
Scott Miller.
Scott Miller works here for the city of Rexburg.
Brett Mendenhall, Madison.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate that. Move over here.
Tom and Martha Crozman.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your attendance here. And
Kevin Larson.
okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate your attendance here too. I recognize you from a long ways back. My neighbor, right? Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Long time ago.
I'm sorry, what?
I was just telling my husband that pie is my son, we love chocolate strawberries.
I'm sorry. I couldn't-
He owns a chocolate plant.
Oh, yeah, the chocolate place. Yeah, that's his claim to fame here. Yeah, thank you. And we all like to go there a little bit too much, but, okay. And of course, we have Stephen Zollinger, our city attorney, Alan Parkinson, our planning director, and Keith Davidson, our public works director, in the back there too, so. And Deborah over here, and Matt, and Mariana, and our IT person over here is Seth, not Seth. I always want to call you Seth. It's not Seth, right?
Fixing the internet.
Asher.
Asher, that's it. For some reason,
We're waiting for the name. Sorry, Asher.
so are we still waiting for recording to work?
Get a check or something. Yeah, trying to figure out.
Are we okay to proceed?
Sort of. We're having an issue with the projector, so.
Started with you. They can still see it through. Sure.
They can still see it through Zoom. It's just that you guys can't see it. But you guys have your tablets, so I guess.
They missed it.
Problem with the projector.
Okay.
Well, there we go.
So are we good to proceed then? Or no?
Yeah, we're good.
We're good? Okay. All right, well, let's go ahead while you're working on that with our roll call of the council members. Mariana, please.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Chambers.
Here.
Councilmember C. Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember E. Erickson.
Here.
Councilmember Reeser.
Here.
Council President Walker.
Here.
All right, we have a full council. Thank you all for being here. All right, item number 3 on our agenda is a time for public comment. These are for items that are not on our agenda tonight, and we ask that if anyone would like to make any comments, that they limit their comments to 3 minutes and come to the front podium, state your name and address. And so that's what this time is for. Is there anyone that would like to make any comments at this time? Hearing none in the audience, is there anyone online? No one online. Okay, we'll move to item number 4 then, which is our committee reports. Let's go ahead and start down here on the left with Councilmember Reeser.
Yeah, the only thing I have to report is last Saturday, I was able to participate with Colin with Shop with a Cop, with the police officers from several counties, and it was well attended. It was a ton of fun. And we apologize for waking up people a little early on a Saturday morning with all the sirens and the lights going on, but it was worth it to see the faces of those kids. It's a great opportunity, great program, and I was really happy to be able to be part of it this year.
Great, thank you. We appreciate your participation. Thank you very much.
Best Christmas lights out there you can get.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Councilmember Eric Erickson.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing to report, Parks and Rec, there's ongoing discussions about, there's possibilities for some new parks that are at least being considered with some new development that's taking place. The rec department is gearing up out at the golf course for the winter activities. I was out there and talked with the Anderson, Parker Anderson, and they're gearing up for rentals, and we're looking for a good season this year.
Great, all right, thank you. And I would add, to that too, just barely new information that we just got that our $1 million tree grant that we applied for and got, but they told us we couldn't use some of the things that they previously had told us we could, so we had to re-go through it and figure out all of the trees that we want to use. It's really mainly for planting trees, and so we've gone through all of that and reallocated things, and we have a meeting tomorrow. The good news is most of the areas that we put our trees in are no match areas, which means we don't have to provide any match, so that's good news. But there are 3 areas that are matching areas, so we may have to adjust things a little bit more, but we're working on that. So anyway, Councilmember Chambers.
I don't know how better to do this, so I'm just going to ask you all this question. But historic preservation is getting up and running, and they've got a good committee, good people, but they're interested in forming their own brand, their own logo, and using social media outside the city's social media platforms. And there's a committee within the city that considers those requests that would likely deny it. So they suggested they speak with me and see if the council would have an appetite to consider an exception for the Historic Preservation Committee to sort of branch out and do their own thing with social media. How do you feel? Is this all right?
Yeah, I mean, personally, and everybody can weigh in, I guess as long as they're associated with the city, I would hesitate a little bit to do that. If they want to be a self-governing committee and want to do their own thing, I guess that would be okay, but as long as they're associated with the city,
Well, it simplifies things, and it can get complicated if you have committees that sort of branch out and do their own thing.
yeah.
And it sends a message to the community as to who's really in charge sometimes, or it has
Yeah.
that potential.
I don't know, I mean, are there any other opinions, or? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that if we made an exception for one, then it would start to become out of control. And I've talked to poor Deb about things that have happened on social media, and I just don't think it would be very fair to our city employees that would have to deal with any kind of fallout that happened, because
Yeah.
you don't know what's going to happen, so,
I agree.
yeah.
I think,
Okay?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think, they're funded by the city. They're part of the city.
Well, they're an
should-
advisory commission to the city too, so it's
Yeah.
not like they've got their own decision-making capacity.
So I think keeping them under the umbrella, of the
Okay.
city is,
I can report that back, thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
okay, thank you. Council President Walker.
The Mayor's Youth Advisory Board, they helped with the Shop with the Cop. Let's see, we had like 12, 14 there. And they totally enjoyed it once I got out there and got going. It was quite the experience. If you've never been involved, you ought to get involved. It's quite the thing that, like Dave said, see the look on the kids' faces is pretty amazing. And then they have their Christmas party tomorrow night. And then the ADA Oversight Board has not met. They won't meet till after the first of the year. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, I don't have anything. Our Trails, Parks and Rec won't meet again until January either, so.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Colin Erickson.
I don't have anything from the airport board. The golf board did meet, they did discuss the remodel and a lot of things at the golf course. We'll definitely be discussing some of that in a little bit. I'll leave that for that. And then for the school district, they'll be getting out of school Friday at noon till the 3rd, I believe it is.
Till the 6th.
Till the 6th, yeah, the 3rd is the Friday, so the 6th is Monday. And they'll be coming back. There's also a Christmas at Madison with George Dyer tomorrow night. That's at the high school at 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, it's always a good program.
That's usually a really good program. Attend that and get the spirit of Christmas, so that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, that's the end of our committee reports. Let's move on to item number 8, which is our staff reports, and we'll start with our finance report with our CFO, Mr. Matt Nielsen. Item number 1 is to review the fiscal year 2024 annual street report to be published by the end of December 2024.
Okay, I'll just hit this one pretty quick. You should have it in your packets. Looks like it's not coming up on the screen, but that one, we're required every December to basically publish this report, put it together, and then we have to submit it to the state. So hopefully you had a chance to look at it. Our carryover at the end of the fiscal year went up from about 6.5 to about 7.1 million. But then one of the things that they asked for is, what have you been deferring? What kind of projects have you deferred? And so we just actually add our 5-year plan, which I sent you guys a link, and you can look at that map, and it's a little easier to see it on a map than go through the written part of it. But anyways, we have about 13 million of projects identified in that 5-year plan. And so unless you guys see any concerns with that report, that was what I plan to report tomorrow to the state and then publish in the newspaper.
Okay, any questions about that from anyone? Okay, sounds like we're all okay with that.
Okay. All right, I'll get that done. And then the next item. What? Yeah, you can just ignore it. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so the next item is the discussion on whether to renew a lease for the restaurant at the Teton Lakes. And I'll just give you kind of a background on it. I tried to email everything out. Probably good to recognize Commissioner Mendenhall here as well, that's been involved in that with the county commissioners. The golf board's been involved. John's on the golf board. I think Brady just walked in from Blisters. But so this, just to kind of give you a little bit of background on this, I think it was probably back in about 2016, we started talking with the golf board about doing something different at the clubhouse than what we had been doing. And initially, we tried to do it with the prior contractor, Duffy, that worked there, had him kind of try to run that as a restaurant that had more food options available, more than just, snacks and drinks, right? And so over the years, we've worked with 3 different contractors. I think our first contract was in 2018 with David Rail, and then we've had 2 others since then. And, what we've tried to do is just basically have that lease and provide more menu options, if you will, and not just for the golf patrons, but for also other patrons that want to go use that facility. Another thing to keep in mind is it is a facility, it's a governmental fund. We don't treat it as a business type or proprietary fund because it is subsidized by tax dollars, right? So general funds of both the county and the city put into that. They put into that for capital needs as well. So the golf course has changed over the last few years. As you're well aware, it's got much busier. We did add 40 parking stalls a couple years ago, and this year it's busiest, right? It's in terms of patrons, revenue, expenses were also the highest they've ever been, and so as you look at that, it's definitely got busier over the years. And then as we approached, so recently the current contractor that's there, we did allow them to make some changes over the last few months. We allowed them to bring over a smoker. It gave us an opportunity to evaluate that, and that was their single location over the last few months. Since discussing it even with the golf board last week, they have secured another location in the downtown. Their intent is to hopefully run both locations, one in the downtown and one at Teton Lakes. So really, ultimately, the question that we need answered from you, the elected officials, is whether we extend a contract, whether it's to them or anyone else, for that matter, after March of 2025. So we did get some concerns from the golf professional, which I emailed over to you guys. We did discuss this as a golf board, and they had some concerns as well, which I've emailed over. And, you know, some of those concerns are, I'll just kind of just briefly touch on. So one, of course, was having the smoker there where it's located on site. Another big concern is just having the parking available for golf patrons. And then if you're trying to run a full-service restaurant, and the two kind of competing for parking, if you will. The other thing is Cam pointed out a few concerns. He had a concern with pace of play. Parking was also a big one. And then the other one is just the loss of opportunity to use it for other golf-related functions, that space. So whether that's maybe you have a tournament that sets up in there rather than having a restaurant, maybe it's having more inventory for golf in that space, whatever it might be, right? So the other thing is I tried to put together some options. I got some feedback from Cam on options that we could look at. I think it kind of, I gave you guys really 4 options that, you know, one of those options is to continue to lease the space. One of those options is to run it more like a snack bar, if you will, drinks and just things you can kind of grab off the shelf. And then there's a couple of options where we can try to run a restaurant on our own and control that space. You know, one of those options would be to keep it open every day, 7 days a week through the summer. One of the other options is just really keep it open on the weekends. And as I looked at it and tried to analyze it, you know, from a financial standpoint, I do think leasing the space is your best option if you're worried about the dollars. But it's not like a significant difference. I mean, it might be a profit of $15,000 versus 5 or 6 if you try to run it on your own. So those are some of the items. That's not everything, just trying to kind of lay them out there. So I think tonight, you know, I think the big thing is just for you guys to discuss it. And hopefully, whatever you decide, whether you want to, I think number one, are we willing to extend a contract past March? And number two, if we are, maybe talk about some of the things that we would want to see different in that contract. So.
Okay, all right. So any discussion from anyone? Yes, go ahead.
So I think that the golf board had some really good points last week. I think that last time we approved the contract, I feel like the golf course was not as busy. And I don't know, I feel like it's turned into this big issue where it kind of feels like it's like 2 competing things, where if we have a full restaurant in there, it's gonna lose some of its purpose to be a golf course. I play there, my husband plays there, probably more than anyone in this community, honestly. And it's really busy. I don't think that there's enough room. And I think our golf course is one of our like finest outdoor recreation areas. And I think we should keep its purpose as a golf course versus trying to make it a full restaurant. That's how I feel. And the money, I mean, wasn't it $12,000 in rent this year?
Yeah, correct.
So we're not talking about a lot of money here. And then Cam, if you read the minutes, Cam actually had to run the restaurant at times and then cut them a check. So he was actually cashiering for them for a lot of the time. So I feel like that's are we subsidizing a restaurant or are we running a golf course? The smoker actually makes the things in the pro shop smell like the smoker. So I think before the smoker came, it wasn't as big a deal, but I think Cam has mentioned repeatedly that it's making the stuff in his pro shop stink. And so, I mean, we take a cut of what he sells in that pro shop. So if we're talking about protecting our monetary interests, that's something to consider too, so.
Yeah. Any other comments?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions here. I mean, number one, are we talking about just some of the issues that have come up with blisters themselves? And sounds like at least some of those concerns have been addressed in the fact that they're not going to run a full restaurant like they have done the last couple of months. They're moving their main operation downtown. This would be just a satellite operation and the major smokers would not be there. So the question is, are we talking about not extending the contract to anyone? Or are we just talking about the issues that we've had with blisters?
Well, I think that, I mean, I know Cam proposed to the golf board anyways that we try to do it on our own. You know, we can do something on our own. I think and that part of his reasoning for that, right, is so that we have full control of that space.
Yeah.
That we can use it for golf-related activities.
Yeah. But my concern in not having anything, not having an option for food, is what are we gonna, what do we do with that space? What's the purpose? What are we gonna do if we don't have a food option?
Well, and I think he's proposing that we do try to do some food options. I mean, it would be much more limited than if you had a contractor that was trying to run that on a day-to-day basis, for sure. And because as we financially analyze that, to try to keep that thing open year-round and us run it, that would be not good financially. Because frankly, we don't run restaurants well. Even the, you look at like even Rexburg Rapids, you'd think, well, we probably bring in a ton of money from that. Yeah, there's some profit, but it's not as significant as you would think.
Yeah. So I guess from my point of view, I think we should utilize the space as it was designed to be used, which is to have some sort of food option at the golf course. I think it's an amenity that some golfers appreciate. Some of the concerns that I've heard as I've talked around is, particularly with sorry, I'm going to be a little sexist here, but with the women golfers are I think mainly very opposed to it because they like to use that space, for parties and bring in, potluck dinners and things like that for their events that they like to do. So that's an issue. If we control the space, then I guess we can allow those kinds of things to happen for events that are golf related, right? Where if we contracted out to another vendor, they would control the space and we wouldn't have access, as much access, unless we wrote it into some kind of a contract somehow.
Well, and what we do currently, because this does come up currently, the current vendor can cater, right, for a tournament, and they do cater for quite a few tournaments. But if somebody comes in and they say, we don't want to use your cater service, they can actually pay, I think it's $400, right? They can pay $400 and basically buy them out for that time period, if you will. And so there is an option for that. It does come with a cost because they have to shut down their operation and they're not offering food during that time. And there's some people that do that. I mean, I guess one of the advantages is having them there to cater is convenient for tournaments. And then one other point that I did forget to bring up is that the vendor, they are able to sell alcohol. And Stephen can correct me if I'm wrong, but when I talked to Stephen and Spencer on that, we would not, right, be able to do that.
Legal answer is, you wouldn't be legally allowed to. Mine and Spencer's answer was, we really think that would be a bad decision for the city to get into business of selling.
So just, that's another point to consider. So.
Mayor, can I ask?
Councilmember Chambers, yes.
So Matt, this issue of conflict over space, is this a currently realized problem or is this an anticipated problem? Have we had problems in the past where the golf course wanted to use it, but they couldn't because the restaurant was there?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely times that Cam would love to be able to go and take up that space and put up, just like they used to, right? The tee sheets around it. And, there's probably times when weather can be a factor, right? If you've got a tournament out there and they haven't set up a tent, it could be useful. And I'm not saying that they haven't used that space. I think these guys have tried to accommodate, but Cam's probably saying it'd be nice to have full control of that, right? In circumstances like that.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go
It's
ahead.
interesting that you said mostly women were opposed to it, because my husband's talked to all of his male
That's
golfer
not what I
friends.
said.
Oh, I guess I
Can I
misheard.
clarify that quickly?
Sure.
The Women Association is a far better organized group, and they have a daytime event.
Right.
On a weekly basis, and they did used to, every week they would sit down and have a social. I don't believe it had anything to do with their gender, it had to do with the time of day that their group meets. The Men's Association meets in the evenings,
Right.
and when we're done, we go to Wendy's or someplace because we really are ready to move on.
Right.
So it really wasn't a gender-driven thing as much as it was one association used it midday, the other did not.
Okay,
Right.
can I just finish the one thought I was saying? So their concerns were parking. That was a big concern. And so I think that's across the board, that you can't find parking when you get there. And then the smokers, so.
Yes,
Go
yeah.
ahead, I can wait.
Colin, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, in looking at this and reading through all the information we've had in the last few days and how it's been changing back and forth, I've sat in through a lot of golf board meetings, and they've discussed this numerous times. I don't think they're against blisters. They want to have consistency. They want to have things there. They are against having a full-fledged restaurant out there. So with that, and with the information we just got this afternoon, I think we ought to just refer this back to the golf board. We have a good board there. Let them go back and look at the stuff that's going to come in now, because it's totally been changed in the last 3 or 4 days. Let them look this back over. Let's them discuss it, and then come back and say, what should we do as a golf board?
And maybe we can emphasize our concerns and have some negotiations going back and forth with blisters and see if there's some way to remedy a lot of the concerns.
And a big one is the parking. I mean, we discussed that for 3 years now since I've been on
Yeah.
it. We've added 40. That's still not enough. We're still parking down the street, walking in. We have a busy facility out there, and it's very well used, but we are in the business really of golf. That's what it is. That's what we set up out there for.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Reeser, did you?
Yeah, my question was about parking, because I was just curious if the parking was not, I imagine it was full, but not really a problem before Blisters stopped their main operation at Mother Hibberd's and moved it to the golf course? Or was it an issue before that, and this just made it worse?
And I think they're also looking in the future too.
Okay.
'Cause this is just at the end of the season, so they really don't know what's gonna
Okay.
happen when it's gonna be full-fledged golf and full restaurant. But like I say, it's changed.
Yeah,
Now
it's
it's looking
changed
at a
now, but it
second
looks like it's gonna be a
satellite
satellite
office.
operation again.
So it needs to go back to me, it needs to go back to the golf board and let them evaluate it.
Are we all good with that? Yeah.
Yeah, but I would like to, at least, I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I don't feel like we could designate parking stalls for the restaurant.
I think that's one of the things that we need to have in the negotiations, as
Yeah.
one of our points of concern.
Yeah, because I'm opposed to that, because it really is full all the time in the summer. And then the smoker, I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like that's not fair to Cam to be trying to sell things in his pro shop with a smoker making it smell like the smoker. So I feel like if there's not going to be a smoker on site like there wasn't before, then that changes a lot of things. But if there's going to be a smoker, to me, that's a deal breaker. I don't know how anyone else feels, but I don't think that's fair to
Yes,
Cam.
Councilmember President Walker.
I think it needs to go back to the board too, but one of my big things is, I don't think the city wants to get in the business of being in the food service.
Yeah, we don't do a real good job
We
with
don't do a
that.
real good job at all, so I don't think
And it
we,
is-
I don't even think that should get.
Well, and I think, if we can come up with some options for, some really good food options that are maybe some that are during the daytime options when golfing is happening, and then maybe something in the evening when it's not. Yes, comment from Mr. Gardner. Would you come up to the microphone, please?
Maybe I can just clarify. My name is Brady Gardner. So the last 3 years, we've had kind of like just a satellite location out of Blisters. As all of you know, we unfortunately had 60 days to get out of Mother Hibberd's gas station. And So we thought, wow, what a great opportunity to actually do the restaurant fully out at the golf course. And it's been awesome. It's been great. To clarify a couple of things, that were brought up, one was that Cam was running, the restaurant, which had never, ever happened ever. There were a couple of times where someone would come in the morning and they would want to buy a drink of water or a Gatorade or some snacks. So they would get that, they would go up to the pro shop and they would pay for that. Maybe it was Cam, maybe it was an employee, but golfers get out there at 6 in the morning and then some of them leave at 8 at night. A lot of you are small business owners, so it's difficult to run a business. So we had certain hours that we were open with a limited menu. I think the question that you had was, is this a future problem? And yeah, we're trying to figure out, the future, what to do and thinking about parking and other things like that. We would like to not have the smoker out there. We would like to move the smoker. We secured a location on Main Street. We're going to move the smoker here. And that would really just limit very few of the menu items that are out there. You probably wouldn't do, ribs and maybe tri-tip and chicken thighs, but everything else you can do, without that smoker. So I don't know. And so anyway, I don't know if there were any other clarification questions that maybe I could help answer for you. Yeah.
Yeah, Brady, I think one of the concerns that we all have is a full operating restaurant competing with the golf operations of the golf course. It's done in other places. There are,
I would say 99%
Yeah,
of every golf
there are-
course in the country has a restaurant and they have,
Yeah.
golf.
But I think some of the concerns, of course, was designated parking for the employees of which, if we're gonna run it as a opportunity for the golfers to get a burger on the turn, we gotta allow for some parking for people to manage that. But do you anticipate that this would be a limited operation or a full, or are you talking about running?
This would definitely be a full-service restaurant with those smoker items
Deleted.
gone because we wouldn't have the smoker. And when you're talking about, I think you're talking about you're making the turn. One of the items that was brought up was it's slowing it down. Well, really for us, like we're putting in more technology to where someone could see on the 9th hole, hey, they're coming in. I mean, it takes us 15 seconds to make a pulled pork sandwich or to make a brisket sandwich. So making that, the previous offerings were hamburgers. And so they would come in, they would go to the bathroom, they'd be waiting and that would be honest, that was probably just due for us a lack of staff. You have one person in there because you're very, very limited compared to what we have now. It's just sad for me, you have now everything. Like we had maybe 20%, 30% the last 3 years. And now we have, 95% with 4 employees almost all the time. And I think parking for us is also a really big issue. How are we going to allow, members of the community to come and eat there if there's nowhere to park? So, we've thought about, can you make parking down below and have carts down there and someone gets on their cart, puts their clubs on and drives up to the clubhouse? I just think that's that creativity of, can you have 5 or 6 or 7 45-minute parking stalls? And that's really what, you have this beautiful deck, you have 6 months out of the year where you don't have golf, and we think there's a lot of really great things that you can do. But at the end of the day, we want to do what the golf board wants to do. Cam's one of my best friends. So we want to do whatever Cam wants to do, like 100%. So anyway, I just wanted to, those are just a couple little questions that I would, and if someone, we did it because Blisters and Catering made such a great mesh with golf tournaments almost every weekend. So it was so much easier. The previous guy before us used to charge for waters that they had to use him for waters. We've been, even with the women, we've been so much more relaxed. Yeah, come in, use it, like no problem, compared to what the previous tenant was, so anyway.
Any questions for Mr. Gardner?
I
Yeah.
do have one more question. And thank you so much for coming here. And yeah, when we golf, we love that you let us fill up our water in there. I think that's very nice too. But I just wanted to clarify because Cam said in the stuff that was sent out to us that he cut checks up to $14,000 for this year of people buying snacks and things. So that sounds to me like more than just a couple 6 a.m. golfers.
Well, you got to think that we're not open on Sunday. What is the majority of sales on Sunday in Rexburg, Idaho? Beer. So every single Sunday, the whole summer long, there's beer sales. So he's reimbursing us for the beer and other type items that we bought, and then he is selling because his patrons, people that come out there to golf, they would love to have beer, right?
So is that something that was, he or the city or both, the partnership, whatever?
Yeah, it's going to be
being
really interesting to see
the
how that,
cost split there or
like how you
something, shit.
handle like beer, right? So but it was never like he's going and making a hamburger. He's never,
Yeah. Oh, I knew that. Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think-
it's like just
He's just
different
ringing
things
it
like-
up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, tons and tons of different snacks, but like I said, we were probably at about 30% because you're a mile away from the regular restaurant, right? So tons of people, I think, just go to Blisters instead. Well, now that's not there. We're really excited about not just golf. We're very excited about the non-golf time to do, Christmas events, to do, maybe you do weddings, maybe you do, we've rented out to community businesses already. We've done lots of different things out there. But once again, we want to do what Cam, I just wanted to clarify, a couple of those things. To me, that's where you're getting most of the reimbursement is all those items we bought. And, we just, I don't know, it's hard to run a business. I don't know if we even made any money out there, honestly, so. Anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So yes, I think kind of what I'm hearing is let's put it back to the golf board and let's have some negotiations. And I think those of us who have some strong feelings about what we'd like to see and not see, I think maybe we should write those down and submit them as suggestions, as negotiating points, and so that we can kind of try to work through this and get something that works well for the restaurant, but it also is keeping our priority as the golf course operations and what happens at the golf course is kind of the number one priority. Does that sound reasonable? Okay.
Does Brent, I'm just curious what your thoughts are. What direction you feel like commissioners may want to go on that?
Well, right now, I'd really like to have a pulled pork sandwich from Blisters. Getting me a little hungry. The number one thing for the county commissioners is what's in the best interest of the golf course and what's in the best interest of that activity, which is golfing. Rare to go to a golf course that there is not food of some kind. And it is usually readily available, or if you have a larger golf course, they have a restaurant area that is not utilized by the public, is not utilized by tournaments, and we're not able to have that. We have a beautiful deck. It is used. The information that has come tonight, even that I have heard, if the restaurant is not, I don't know if it would be full service. I like the idea of going back to the golf board. One of the things that we as county commissioners do appreciate, we appoint commissions and we get citizens to serve, and If we ignore them, they soon lose interest, or they don't vote for us again, which some days that's okay. But I'd like to have it go back to the golf board. I really would, to have them, I don't even know if there's negotiations, Mayor. It's to go back to the golf board and say, okay, you said no restaurant. Were you talking about Blisters? Or were you talking about no restaurant whatsoever? And
Oh, you're talking about no smoker and, I mean, the things that were the
then you're talking about
problems, right?
Blisters. You're
Yeah.
talking about Blisters. And so if it's Blisters, fine, but if it's no restaurant, I think that it is on the golf board to come up with Plan B. If you don't want this, what do you suggest? Don't tell us no unless you have an alternative 2 or 3 options. Mr. Nielsen has put together 2 or 3 options of what could have happened besides someone leasing it, what happens if the city runs it, or if someone else runs it, or if we do it part-time, or I think the golf board has a responsibility to come back and say, they're all golfers on that. They all play golf on that golf board. And I think they have an idea of what might be best for the golf course. That clubhouse is not a big clubhouse. It's small.
Yeah, it's,
And we need to fit it in. It's not your standard golf course. And if a small portion of Blisters can fit in there and it serves the public, serves the golfers, great. If non-golfers come out there, great. They'll see people come in chatting and laughing. They may take up golf. I don't know. I can't see that far out, but I think it's up to the golf board. And Mr. Johnson is the president of that golf board, and he'll take it and run. I know that. So, county commissioners, what's best for the golf course? What's best for the golfers for that part of the recreation? Yeah.
okay, all right, thank you for that input. Okay, so the item on the, is an action item, so I guess I would entertain a motion to remand it back to the golf board, if that's what you want to do. Okay,
Mayor, I'll make that motion to send this back to the golf board, let them discuss it and decide on it.
better come up with something that'll work.
Yep.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will go ahead with that decision. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, those of you who are here to help us out with that. All right, item number 3 is financial reports.
Okay. So we won't pull them up, but you have them in your packet. But probably just the big thing is the cash balance report. I keep saying this time of year, we just keep dipping and dipping, but it's, so your cash reserves are down to about 42.6. Liquid reserves, probably just about $9 million. So it just gives you an idea there. The other thing is, we do have the treasurer's report in there for you to review as well. We're basically 2 months in, so, you know, that would be, if we'd spent our full budget, that'd be about 16.7%, but we've actually, you know, only spent about 9% so far in this fiscal year. So that tells you where we're at there. The other thing that I want to spend probably the most time on is I went in and I forecasted your general fund balance carryover. So if you could pull that up and look at it, just to give you a little history. So you guys know in the general fund, we try to keep a reserve of between 25 and 33%, ideally. You know, 2 years ago in 2022, it was about 39. 23, it actually went up quite a bit to about 43%. But then at the end of this year, I'm estimating that we will drop down to about 31.2% roughly. But where the real problem was is as we went through the budget process last year, if we would have accepted all of the budget requests, we would have dropped clear down to 16% by the end of fiscal year 25. But with all the cuts that we were able to find, I still project that we'll end about 25% roughly by the end of fiscal year 25. So the question that I have, I went in there and I showed you guys the transfers from the general fund. Those are really so if you ever want to see, you know, what are we subsidizing, what other activities with general fund dollars, I would look at those transfers. But one of the questions that I have is, we had talked many, many months ago about pickleball, and we had decided, you know, obviously not to build the new pickleball courts. and to move forward with the pickleball court renovation of the tennis court at Smith Park. And so in that particular one, I know that there had been some discussion on what amount do we transfer? Can we set aside a little for a future pickleball new court? And so what we did, the mayor and I looked at that. We felt like we should probably just leave that at 100,000. Typically, we're trying to do at least 50,000 a year. And so, and I would anticipate that your remodel of the tennis courts over there will cost at least 60,000. That'd be kind of the minimum. And so we suggested the 100,000. Just want to make sure that you guys are comfortable with that. This is kind of your last opportunity to increase that if you want to set aside more. And so I guess this is your opportunity to tell me what to do. And we would definitely need to know tonight because we're closing the books tomorrow. So are you guys comfortable with that? or-
What are your thoughts? What do you guys think?
I think 100,000 is good.
Yes, go ahead.
You can finish.
Yeah, I think 100,000 is a good amount,
Okay.
other than the 50, gets us there faster.
Yeah, I think we need to be planning for future pickleball courts. I think it's such a demand out there and everybody wants them. And so if you feel like 100,000 is the proper thing to set aside, just so that we're putting something aside for future.
Yeah, and one other thing to let you know is we actually do have some carryover, from the last few years, but we have been carrying it over with the intent to do more playground type apparatuses. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's your decision. Like if you guys decided, hey, we've got 200,000 in there and maybe we get.
We do have to think about some of the new parks we're coming up with, so there may be some demands there for some playground equipment. Go ahead, did you want to?
Oh, it was so hard to get that money put away for pickleball that it's hard for me to see it disappear, because I agree with Councilmember Erickson that that's one of the things that I hear the most that people want. So to me, it's just, I would rather keep more in there, but I might be the only one that feels that way. I feel like we don't have a problem spending money on other things, and I think pickleball is something that the community wants, so I'd like to leave more in there.
Yeah, so I think we're good with that.
No, I mean, I would like to leave more than the 100,000.
You wanna do more than
Because we
that,
had like, how much was it? 300?
Yeah, it was
380?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So can we leave
Yeah.
200?
You can. So if you wanted to take the projection for fiscal year -- right down to 25%, there's about 103,000 to work with.
And that's it?
Yeah. I mean, a couple good things that have happened, right, is our health insurance renewal was awesome, that I went to you, I think it was a month ago that we told you about that. It saved like a couple $100,000 at least for the general fund. We did just actually get a grant. I think it was 20,000.
20,000 from Rocky Mountain Power Foundation, yeah.
That will help with the renovations of the Smith Park courts. And so they donated 20,000, and in return, we're gonna put a sign up on the fence that, acknowledges them for at least 5 years, I think it was. And so I mean, it's really up to you guys. I do think that the next few years are gonna be pretty tight, trying to keep it at that 25%. And, some way or another, we're gonna have to figure that out, because if we take 5% or 10% every year, it's not gonna take long before we're gonna be saying, probably can't do that.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. But, yeah, I don't know. That makes me a little nervous to push it up there too much, from a financial standpoint. But maybe we could split the difference and go 150 or something.
I'd be happy even with that.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just nervous about pushing it down further than the 25. I think we need to keep it there. I don't have a problem with going down to 25 this year, but we need to be very cautious on going down below that.
Yeah, I agree. That's pretty, I get too low on those reserves, so. So I mean, it's up to you guys to decide if you wanna keep it 100, do you wanna push it to 150? You wanna go 200?
What if we left it at 100 with the direction that we look for grants? If towards the end of the year we have surplus funds and still can stay at that 25%, let's put them towards the pickleball. Just sort of go as we can, see what we can do. But leave it at the 100,000
Does that
until
sound
we know.
agreeable to everybody? And try to be mindful of any extras we might be able to come up with and push them that direction. Just so that we don't get ourselves into financial trouble. There is one thing too that has come up, and we don't know if it's anything that's gonna happen for sure yet, but one of the newer developments out here, talking about putting in a 5-acre park, and they've asked if we'd like to have them put in some pickleball courts. So there may be some, some things there that will help alleviate the demand a little bit too, and that's not a for sure thing, so, but it's a possibility.
And they'd be public?
If they turned it over to us and it was a public park, then they would be yes. Yeah, so, and that's kind of what they proposed, but we don't, that's nothing for sure at this point, so. Anyway, okay, well, that sounds like, we're in agreement to go ahead and leave it at 100, but we wanna, with the direction to the staff of looking for more opportunities to find pickleball funding.
Okay. Well, and the good news is we're going to do Smith Park, so that should help as well, right?
Yeah, that will help, because there'll be 6 courts there. Yeah, so that'll be helpful. Okay, all right, thank you, Matt, we appreciate that. All right, item number B, we don't really have anything from Public Works this evening, so we will go ahead and skip to item number 6, which is the mayor's report. I'll just let you know that we are interviewing candidates not as we speak, but today we interviewed candidates, and we have some more on Friday for the street supervisor position, which is Bill's job. Today we interviewed internal candidates. Some of our gentlemen that are on the streets crews and things have applied for the job, and then Friday we have some candidates that are from outside, so we'll be interviewing those. So we'll be making that decision here in the next few weeks too. So. And I will say that it's been really fun interviewing some of the guys that are on our streets crews. We've got some really good guys, and they've got a lot of good thoughts, and I've really enjoyed getting to know them better. So that's something that's the kind of a side benefit of these interviews. Also, I would encourage all of you to go to Porter Park if you haven't been and view the light show that we have going on there. I was there last night, and I've been there a couple times, and it's a really fun light show. It's really great. If you got kids or grandkids in town, take them there and let them see that light show. It's really Rick Robinson and his family have put that together, and they've done a really great job, so it'd be good to support them on that. It's not there every night, but it is there on weekends, and it was open last night. I can't remember exactly which nights it's not there, but I think it's Wednesday, Thursday, maybe not. Maybe Tuesday, but Monday night, and it's not on Sunday night, but I think Monday night and the weekends, it definitely is. But if you go on our website, it's got that information, so. Okay, I will remind you too, just as a calendar item, the Chamber of Commerce breakfast on January 21st at 7:30 a.m. You want to put that on your calendars.
Is that again?
January 21st, that's a Tuesday morning, I believe, at 7:30 a.m. And so, yeah, that's got that coming up. Also, I think you're aware of this, but just to remind you, we won't be having city council on New Year's night, so we'll be going January 8th and January 22nd instead of the 1st and the 15th. So, okay. Item number 7 is a staff recommendation to approve amendments to the employee committees and bylaws. You got Scott Miller here to talk to us about that. Mr. Scott, would you go ahead with that, please?
All right, so we fundamentally just have 2 changes to the bylaws. The first would allow for committee members to serve multiple terms. Right now, the current edition of the bylaws prohibits that. We do have a few cases where, just specifically with the police in this time around, where we've got a member that was willing to serve again, but nobody else would be able to. And so it made sense to just go ahead and change the bylaws to make a recommendation that we don't do that, if at all possible, but that in situations where it was needful and that the department head gave approval, that we could go ahead and do that.
Okay, so there's some checks and balances in there. All right, good.
So, and then the second one is just a little bit of a shuffle in the groupings of those employee committee groups, so that for who sends a member to represent. So that's essentially, we in finance are now combined with customer service, and I apologize, I don't have it in front of me, so.
You got that in front of you there? So is there any questions or comments from anyone about these changes and any oppositions? If there is none, I would entertain a motion to go ahead and approve these changes to the employee bylaws.
Mr. Mayor, I shall move that we approve the changes in the employee bylaws.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Eric Erickson. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. That motion passes. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate
Thank you.
your service on that committee. All right, item B is the Planning and Zoning recommendation to approve a zone change at 340 West 2nd North from low-density residential 1 to medium-density residential 1. Alan, would you just want to give us a quick rundown on that item, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, council members. The proposed change that was brought to Planning and Zoning was for the property located 340 West 2nd North. It's just east of the fairgrounds. It's kind of an odd-shaped piece in there, and they wanted to develop it. Right now, there's a house on it and a shop with a lot of extra ground. They plan on keeping the house, but want to develop around it. So they're asking to go up to an MDR1 and put in some fourplexes, things like that, to meet that. So staff has reviewed it, they're okay with it, everything in there fits the standards, and the P&Z has recommended it to you for approval. So if there's any questions?
Any questions for Alan on this? If there is none, oh, yes, go ahead.
Question, just as I was looking at the map, and I saw the MDR2 around it, but it doesn't look like it's built out to MDR2, is that right? Is there any, so I was just curious, when did it get changed to MDR2, and why? Since
The
its
areas
house is in
around
it?
it's been that way since before I started.
Okay.
So it's been there for quite a while. We had some to the east across the road there that we just recently did in the last couple of years, Quicksilver. That one was taken to MDR2 probably 3 years ago. So we've had some changes recently in there.
But the other
ones
ones-
right adjacent to it have been there quite a while.
Okay, any other questions for Alan? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to move forward on this item. Is there such a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion that we approve the rezone request at 340 West 2nd North from low-density residential 1 to medium-density residential 1, and designate ordinance number 1325 as first read.
All right,
Mayor,
thank you. Is there a
Mayor,
second?
Clarification
Yes.
on that. It was listed wrong on the deal. It should be LDR2 to MDR.
Oh, LDR2 to MDR, okay, gotcha.
Thank you. I'll make that amendment in my motion.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Reeser. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you, Ellen, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Item 8 is, we have no second readings or third readings. Item 9 is our consent calendar, which is the minutes from the December 4th, 2024 meeting, and the approval of the payment of the City of Rexburg bills. I would entertain a motion to move forward with the consent calendar.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Colin Erickson. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Council President Walker. At this time, is there any questions or comments about anything with the minutes or the payment of the bills? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will go ahead and enter the minutes and pay the bills. And there's nothing else to come before the council. I just wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year.
Merry Christmas,
All
everyone.
right, thank you. We are adjourned.
You know that state of cities or whatever?
That hearing.
What time's it on the 21st?
7:38.
Is over.
Up at the Taylor Building,
Taylor
like it was last year, yeah.
Is that Taylor Chapel?
Not in the chapel,
Or in
but
the gym
cultural
overflow?
hall, yeah.
7:30, you said?
Yep.
7:30, yeah.
Scott said you'd been in and we were talking about that a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think we have a good outline.
Oh, good, okay.
Might look at it.
I will. I'll look it over and see if I have any suggestions.
Okay. I didn't tell Scott, but I think we ought to put that place software on have a slide that shows what it does.
Oh, what it does, yeah.
Lots of my neighbors.
Okay, yeah, that's actually, it is.
Yeah.
One of my
Oh, yeah.
neighbors is talking.
No, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mary. Appreciate it.
They have cars and they can't park on the street.
The wife wasn't.
So I don't know, it's two enough.
Flavor.
I actually-
It's a